Indian Army is, I think, one of the most active armies across the world. We are like from the day we got our independence, forget the pre-independence era when we were fighting under the British, but from the day we got independence, we have been fighting. The military literature in India is pretty limited. It's very autobiographical in nature. The space for junior officer stories is very limited. The limited version of military that is shown in Bollywood or in couple of books that come out, they tend to stereotype us in a very set format. Either you are a Superman or you're a Casanova or you're wherever you go you win. That does not happen. We are normal people who are military officers doing a job and a profession, who are high risk taker, more confident people and very good in our job compared to other militaries. Any profession, right from driving a basic car to fighting a war, if you stick to basics, you minimize your losses. That's a fact. So that's how I was telling you that you are a young officer, you going there, you want to be the Superman, let's do this, let's jump there. You are purely fearless. Right? As a young, you just want to prove yourself. Ki, aaj hi main sare terrorists marunga, right? But that does not happen. And it's only when you follow the basics do you catch terrorists also. There are a lot of units who are not able to get these numbers. But we did, because we followed basic, and that's a very Gorkha trait. In one of the encounters, right, it is a funny and that kind of thing. One of the encounters, we were firing and terrorists were firing and all that. So at one point, we had to throw grenades, right? So I asked everybody, okay, take out grenades, throw. We threw the grenades. The moment you throw grenades, you say stop, and then you start firing again. Wait, fire, kahan se aaya? Did they hurt? You wait, ki, has the grenade hit somebody? Has somebody died, injured, whatever? After 5-7 minutes, my radio operator asked me, I think I should throw a grenade. He spoke in Nepali, of course. Aile to grenade phalnu padsa. And I'm asking, why? Ab ho gaya? Why? He said, when you said throw the grenades, I took out the pen and I'm holding the lever since then. But then you said stop. I've been sitting like that since then. Nepal is the only pure Hindu state earlier. The Hindu Rashtra which we talk about, they were there. They take their duties very seriously. They take religion very seriously. They have always been, very aggressive when it comes to following their principles. And that's a cultural thing.
Hello and welcome. This is a fresh season of Inner Defense, and I know in the last season's final episode, I had said that we'd be taking a break for a couple of weeks perhaps and coming back with a new season and a new format. But I don't think we'll be doing that actually because we have the format ready for our listeners and viewers earlier than expected. So season 3 of Inner Defense is going to be featuring more than one guest instead of what we've been doing over the last couple of seasons. From now on, I think every episode we'll try to bring in people who are linked to the military, retired officers, domain experts, stuff like that. Maybe even diplomats at times, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But anyway, welcome, big welcome to our listeners and viewers. This is In Our Defense. I'm your host, Dev Goswami, and today with me, I have Major Manik M Jolly. Sena Medal retired. He recently wrote a book for people who are watching us on YouTube. You can see it over here right now, and for people who are listening to us, the book is called Kupwara Codes. It's the first book of the Gorkha Garrison Series. Major Jolly is a veteran of the Gorkha Regiment, and he also served briefly in the military intelligence, if I'm not wrong, in Jammu and Kashmir. He commanded an infantry company and also worked extensively in counterinsurgency and counterintelligence as well. I think something that forms a very core aspect of his book that I finished in one day. So that was that. So before we get to the real topic of our discussion, and I'm going to actually kind of pick Major Jolly's brains and his experience on being with the Gorkha Regiment. I think if you would ask any defense enthusiast, anybody who follows the world of military, especially the Indian Army very closely, about what would be their favorite regiment, Gorkhas would rank high up there. So what is this legendary regiment? Who are these guys and what makes them so fearsome? That's going to be something of a discussion is what we'll do on this episode, the first episode of season 3. But before we do that, just a welcome to Major Jolly, and thank you so much, sir, for being on this podcast. I'm guessing this must be a sort of a unique experience for you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goswami. It's indeed a very unique
experience. You can call me Dev, by the way.
That's completely fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dev, for the invitation. And it is a unique experience. I've never been to such a podcast. And given the military background I had, majority of my life I served in MI, so wasn't very used to limelights. So, but now I'm very grateful to you that you're giving me chance to talk about my book and my service. So I hope we have a great discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite right. For someone who's in the world of intelligence to suddenly have a mic and 3 cameras pointed at him, that must be quite the experience. So I hope Major Jolly actually will be a guest who keep coming on season 3 of In Our Defense, and I think we'll cover several topics, different areas, based on his expertise and experience in the Indian Army and whatever he knows of the area of Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan, and terrorism that takes place in Jammu and Kashmir. Major, before we talk about the Gorkha Regiment, and I like your experiences, your experience rather commanding a company in this regiment. Tell us what made you decide to write this. And by the way, you called it the Gorkha Garrison Series. So I've finished book 1. So what's this book about, and what made you write it in the first place? And yes, why is it about just the Gorkhas?
Okay, so I'll explain that. See, Indian Army is, I think, one of the most active armies across the world. We are like from the day we got our independence. Forget the pre-independence era when we were fighting under the British rule, but from the day we got independence, we have been fighting.
Yep.
And till date, as we speak, it can be pure wars, it can be counterinsurgency in different parts of the country. And even though we have so much experience, so many heroes, so many battles fought, the military literature in India is pretty limited. It's very autobiographical in nature. People who, after retirement, maybe write about what they did in the service and who did what, that kind of. The space for junior officer stories is very limited, and these are and I also did not want to make it a non-fiction, because it's very factual in a way and tends to take away the something you can narrate under a fiction. So what I did was that I thought of my experiences in the field, my friends, my colleagues, my unit, and I put it all together and tried to create a thriller story, military fiction. And why I chose Gorkha Garrison, of course, because I was commissioned in that regiment. It's very close to my heart. And also I feel it is the best regiment in the world. So there is no doubt I would have chosen, any other regiment. So I wanted to bring that this is the unit that is doing phenomenal operations, which we actually did. So that is the reason I chose my regiment. And my sole aim for writing this book is to bring the stories of young officers out who are day in and day out fighting battles in Kashmir or Northeast and risking their lives. And there are soldiers in hundreds and thousands every day doing this. But they get reported in news, but the storytelling aspect is missing.
Yeah.
And also the limited version of military that is shown in Bollywood or in couple of books that come out, they tend to stereotype us in a very set format. Either you are a Superman or you're a Casanova or you're wherever you go you win. That does not happen. We are normal people who are military officers doing a job and a profession, who are high risk taker, more confident people, and very good in our job compared to other militaries. And I wanted to bring in this book the whole challenges and aspirations and things that they go through. So that was a aim for writing this.
Right. I quite like that actually, what you said, because yes, I've also read several books written by retired officers, whether it's from the Army, Navy, or the Air Force. And you're right, it's mostly senior officers, and the books either usually are a memoir of the times in the military, or tend to focus more at the larger policy level of what goes down, not really what happens at the ground level. And I'll tell you something. One aspect of the book that kind of really stayed with me, and it actually brought back memory of this movie called Taking Chance. I don't know if you've seen the movie. No. It's basically about a U.S. Military officer who's tasked to accompany a fallen soldier's body back home, and that's I think one of the core chapters of your book, where this young officer who's recently been commissioned into the Indian Army, he's been told by superiors that you need to take the body of one of the soldiers or Jawans who've died in a recent ambush with terrorists back home. That entire experience, where you narrate how he reaches the hometown. I forgot. I think it's in Uttar Pradesh, if I'm not wrong. The hometown. He reaches the hometown, and then he meets the family members, sees the mother, the father, etc., etc. So very emotional sort of writing that in the book, and I think that's something only usually, if I may correct myself, usually something that would be experienced mostly by younger officers compared to senior officers, and I'm guessing that's something that really comes out in the book. And which is exactly why I was thrilled to actually have you on this podcast, because within our defense, that is something that we try to aim. We don't really want to sit over here and just give out people bare bones information about कब क्या हुआ, ये war में क्या हुआ, पाकिस्तान ने ऐसे लड़ा, इंडिया ने ऐसे किया, और चाइना stand off में ये हो गया. It's more about the moments, about what happens in that particular moment. Right. Just one tidbit before we continue, actually, and this is because I'm just like sort of a geek when it comes to stuff about the military, and also because, by the way, for I think our listeners and viewers who've been following in our defense know this, I applied for the NDA after my college. Actually, it could not go through. I went for the SSB interview, the 5 days full, but then I got conferenced out. I've always wondered, how do you get commissioned into a particular regiment? So once you finish your NDA and once you finish your IMA, do you get to choose what regiment you're part of? Is there a lottery system? How does it happen?
Okay, now it's a kind of very fair system. Let's say there are 500 of us, right? Getting commissioned from IMA, same with OT or something. Now, if all the top 10 guys want to take, let's say, engineers, right? All the top 10 guys will take engineers, and none of the guys who's even 11th will get that. To balance that out, the entire course is divided into blocks of 20, 20, 20, 20 each. And each block will have vacancies of 1 engineer, 2 armor, 3 artillery. Infantry obviously is the largest.
Yes.
I wanted to get commissioned into Gorkha Regiment, of course. And the benefit of infantry optees is that you get whatever you want. Because infantry is, if you want to go to 6th Regiment, there are 20 plus battalions. So you want to go to Gorkhas, there are 35 plus battalions. You will get. But I wanted to get commissioned to Gorkhas. I applied for 1st Battalion, 4th Gorkhas, and I got it. Because the system is created in such a manner that you can give 3 options. So my options were 4 Gorkhas, 11 Gorkhas, 9 Gorkhas, like that. So I got my first choice. Somebody else would have also opted for 4. Maybe he did not get that. He got 9 Gorkhas.
Right.
So somebody opted for armored regiment. If he is in the block, there are 2 guys opting. So one would get armored, one would get something else. So it's a pretty fair system that way. It's a mix of what is available and your choices and some recommendation from the military secretary branch, I think.
Right.
But I never made it to general, so I don't know that part. Right. Yeah. Right. And then I should tell, there's a PC system, like parental claim.
Okay.
If my dad has commanded or even served in some unit in any rank, so there is PC 1, 2, 3. So I can claim that unit,
right?
And you will get that,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting, amazing. Right. So let's talk about the Gorkhas. Let's talk about the Gorkha Regiment. Not really, its history, because people can just look that up. But just for a very basic overview, what I just quickly jotted down for our listeners and viewers for some context for them. The Gorkhas have been part of the military in India since pre-independence times. The Britishers actually were very impressed with their fighting abilities. Somewhere, I think, if I'm not wrong, in the 1800s. When they had a fight against the Gorkhas, and they were so impressed that they thought, oh, we'll need to start recruiting them. When the Britishers left India, there was a deal signed between India, Britain, and Nepal that allowed India to retain, if I'm not wrong, 6 of the regiments, Gorkha regiments from the British Indian Army. The Britain, I think, took 1, and Nepal obviously has all Gorkhas. India then decided to raise 1 more regiment, so now I think we have 7 Gorkha regiments. The Britain has 1. It's called the Brigade of Gorkhas, if I'm not wrong. But in the last couple of years, there have been no recruitments happening from Nepal because of the sort of back and forth that's going on between the 2 countries over the Agniveer scheme. We'll come to that at a bit later stage. But first, I want to talk about these legendary Gorkhas. There's a quote often attributed, not often, always attributed to Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. I've not been able to fact check it. I've not been able to really find out whether he actually said it, but there are many attributions that he mostly said it. Is that if a man says he's not afraid of dying, he's either lying or he's a Gorkha. Now, Major, you've been in this regiment. You've commanded these soldiers. Tell us about this Gorkhas and what makes them so legendary.
So you're right that initially when British fought Gorkhas, they were so impressed. They started recruiting them. They got into a deal that we will not annex. Will not, like the entire India was British dominion. They will not go enter Nepal, but you become our soldier. And the might of Gorkhas was actually established in British when they had constantly lost in Afghanistan, and it was Gorkhas who were sent there, and they won Afghanistan for British. So it was realized that these guys are something else. And then even in world wars, because we were fighting under British, all Gorkha battalions have many battle honors which are abroad. Because we fought in Europe, we fought in North Africa, we fought in Southeast Asia, Burma, Northeast, So wherever you need really superior fighting force, you always had to take them. I'm not saying others are, but we are the best, that kind of thing. So what makes Gorkha such a great fighter? I don't think I have answer to that because I know how they are, but what goes on in the DNA, I don't have answer to that. But they're very docile when you meet them. They're very friendly. They're very respectful. It's a honor to serve with them, I can tell you. Every infantry officer, every army officer would say it's an honor to serve with these troops. Same way, I also truly feel that because the kind of mutual respect officers have for men and men have for officers is, I don't know, unmatched. And they help you grow as a person. That's the best thing I like about my regiment, right? The troops are so skilled in warfare. The troops are so skilled in armed forces, all concept, tactics, strategy, that they help you learn better. They help you perform better. They help you fight better. When it comes to combat, I have seen they are actually kind of really fearless, right? So fine, everybody follows tactics. It's not like somebody's like if you're fighting terrorists, nobody will go and jump on the gun. That is common sense. But when it comes to moving around, when it comes to actually seizing the opportunity, all that, these guys are phenomenal. So never in once I had seen somebody cowering down or scared or hiding behind trees tactics, right? But covering your head and crying is cowardice. That does not happen in our regiment, right? So everybody's waiting for the opportunity when to shoot. They move tactically. We've had a lot of operations. I was commissioned in '99, right? And my first 2-3 years spent in Kupwara. So I had taken notes from that. Right? It was a very active time. My unit got unit citation from chief because we killed 100 plus terrorists in almost 15 months. Every week we would have a great operation. And we actually had just 2 casualties in entire 1.5 year after killing 100 plus. And that is again a trait that I attribute to Gorkhas. They follow tactics as is in the book. They never forget basics. And in any profession, right from driving a basic car to fighting a war, if you stick to basics, you minimize your losses. That's a fact. So that's how I was telling you, that you are a young officer, you going there, you want to be the Superman, let's do this, let's jump there. You are purely fearless, right? As a young, you just want to prove yourself. Ki, aaj hi main sare terrorists maar dunga, right? But that does not happen. It's very rare to get into a encounter. But even then, even if you're trying to be flamboyant and you're trying to be less to the guys will teach you, no, let's stick to basics. And they keep you grounded. And hence that becomes the backbone of our success. And it's only when you follow the basics do you catch terrorists also. There are a lot of units who are not able to get these numbers. But we did because we followed basic, and that's a very Gorkha trait. I'll give you an example, right? It's often said once you give a command to a Gorkha, it's done, right? You don't have to doubt it. So in one of the encounters, right, it is a funny and that kind of thing. One of the encounters, we were firing and terrorists were firing and all that. So at one point, we had to throw grenades, right? So I asked everybody, okay, take out grenades, throw. We threw the grenades. The moment you throw grenades, you say stop, and then you start firing again. Wait, fire, kahan se aaya? Did they hurt? You wait. Has the grenade hit somebody? Has somebody died, injured, whatever? So we waited. After 5-7 minutes, my radio operator asked me, I think I should throw a grenade. He spoke in Nepali, of course. Aile to grenade phalnu padsa. And I'm asking, why? Ab ho gaya? Why? He said, when you said throw the grenades, I took out the pen and I'm holding the lever since then. But then you said stop. I've been sitting like that since then. So I said, please go ahead. So, it's that's what makes them so special.
Yeah.
There are a lot of these stories here and there. But like any infantry officer, I love my troops and
Yes.
love my regiment. And I think, as I said earlier, it was an honor and pleasure to serve with them. But after 4 years, I did move to military intelligence because I had a bent of mind. I thought, let me do that. So even MI, there's a 2-year probation, and thankfully I cleared it. So rest of my 10 years, I served with them.
Yeah. And I think in one of our future episodes, we'll talk more about your time in the military intelligence. But the story you told me actually reminds you of something that I think, if I'm not wrong, it was Abhishek Bhalla in season 1, who used to be my guest in season 1, who had told me the story of somebody in the military had recounted to him, some officer, that the officer was hosting a party in the mess, and I think he needed something, but it was not there in the mess. So he called, this is from the Gorkha Regiment. So he called one of the Jawans and he said ki cycle le, daud ke ja aur kuch lekar aa. And this was around, I think, 2 kilometers away. And this guy apparently took more than an hour to come back. So the officer was wondering, ki yaar, what time ho gaya? And then when the soldier finally came back, he asked him, ki kya hua bhai? He's like, सर आपने बोला साइकिल ले दौड़ के जा तो मैं दौड़ के जा रहा था तो he actually took the cycle along with him and he was running but not cycling to the location.
So even if there are like you add a little spice to the whole thing, but the base does not. In the base stories, that must be true actually. When I was commissioned, like in the first after we have to stay in lines. And you graduate through 1 month. First day you're a Jawan, next week you're Lance Naik. To teach us mostly about language, culture, you bond with the troops. We don't go and start staying in officer mess first day. You do the same duties that the Jawans are doing. You eat there, you use the same facilities. Everything is same. After a month, you are dined in and you move to officer's mess. So the moment I moved to officer's mess, there was a formal function, and for that I required a Gorkha hat. Right? You know the
Yes.
one, right? And I was very new. I did not have so I called my buddy and I asked him, from the company, can you get a Gorkha hat? I have to wear it for uniform. He said, okay. He went and got that. So that was a little small hat, right? And as a North Indian, and I'm from Haryana, we always talk in sarcasm, right? And I told him, isse choti nahi mili thi. He said, okay. He went and got a smaller one, right? So that's how I realized that sarcasm does not work here.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are it was a very interesting phase. But then you, immediately after that, we moved to field. And this chapter I written where this young officer takes a soldier who's killed in action happened there actually. It was just my couple of weeks into the unit, and I was sent as a officer to deliver the body at home. And you're just 20, 21 years old. And I was 16 years old when I left home for India. And at 15, 16, parents generally don't send you to funerals or attend them for a long time. You don't have such experience. But when immediately after getting commissioned, because you're the officer, you become a kind of authority that he's the one who's responsible. So when I entered that village, there were thousands of people and parents and family of that soldier, everybody's coming to me. What happened? And his mother is crying, sister is crying. And I didn't know what to do actually. I had never been in such a situation. But you have to hold your ground, You have to be, I swear, when you were saluting, I was crying actually, standing there. And that is what I thought, that soldiering is not easy. You see a very black and white version but the responsibilities that come being an officer are far too many actually. Every day your soldiers are talking about their lives and their families. I am having this problem. And you're 20-year-old, 22 years old, and the 50-year-old guy telling you, I'm facing this problem with my daughter's wedding, this land problem. You have no idea all these things, but you have to advise.
Yes.
So you learn from your seniors, you ask advice. It's a lot of responsibility, and it's not just about, chasing terrorists.
Right. Actually, that's a very good thought, and I want you to expand a bit more on that. The Indian Army, especially the infantry, is the regimental system. This is not about the Gorkhas, really. It's sort of a larger question. The regiments are usually identity or geography based. You have the Sikh regiment, you have the Rajput regiment, you have the Jat regiment, you have the Bengal regiment, so on and so forth. You have the Gorkha regiment. Unlike with, let's say, an officer in the Air Force or the Navy or the other branches of the Indian Army, when you're commissioned into a regiment, like you said, you as mostly usually somebody who's come from a different state altogether, different city altogether, different environment altogether. At times, most officers maybe I don't know the profile right now, but I would say, let's say a good number of officers come from urban areas versus from the rural areas, right?
Fair enough.
So when you, like you said, you're from Haryana, you go to a regiment and you are exposed to a culture and people whom you've never met, and you suddenly tasked with commanding them and giving them orders. What's that experience like? How isn't that daunting for an officer?
Uh, See, firstly, from the day one you join your academies, you are trained for that. That very soon you will be commanding men. So learn to behave. Right? Make a, for the lack of bed, make a man out of yourself. Then you start talking about. So the thing is, you are trained to get there. You reach there, and when it is fun, it's totally different. Reading leadership in books is very different. When you're standing there in front of 120 men, your company or something, and they expect you to command. In combat, when bullets are flying, everybody's looking at you. Not only what will you do, what will you say? How will you command them? What decisions you take? These are things that make or break the reputations of as a leader. So as far as the cultural thing is concerned, all regiments put a lot of effort into making their young officers understand that you are part of this culture now. Forget what you were earlier. I'll give you an example. Like when we go for young officer courses, that's within first year of you joining the army. When we meet each other in bios after a long time, because previously we were together in academy, IMA or Indian. Then you meet at young officers course after a year. Everybody spent a year in their unit. We don't call each other by name or something. Everybody used to call me a Gorkha, idhar. And anybody who's in Jat regiment is a Jat. Anybody Sikh regiment, even if he's from Tamil Nadu,
Right.
he's a Khalsa. So that's you belong to that culture, you belong to that regiment, you're part of that, their history, their legend, their good and bad. So that identity that you evolve into, right, is not only voluntary, it's organic, and it's expected out of you. So that's part of being a regimental soldier. You learn their history, learn the culture. There's so many things which are very cultural to a certain regiment. We all have all your regiments have these things. You have to follow them. So.
Right. Major, going back a bit again to the Gorkhas' fearsome reputation in terms of, when they're fighting on the ground. Based on your experience, commanding men in the Gorkha regiment, and like you just said right now that, as an officer, as a young officer especially, you have to imbibe and learn their culture, which you must have. Because I've always wanted to understand, okay, it's one thing to say, Gorkhas are legendary, the Gorkhas are fearsome, stuff like that. But where does it come from? Because some of the things, like you said, tactics, like you said, following SOPs, following your basics, they can be taught. They can be taught in a military school. Now, of course, it differs from person to person, from culture to culture, perhaps how closely you follow them. But maybe that's one. But what is the other aspect that kind of makes them so fearsome? Or is it just sheer physical strength? Is it, like you said, that ability not to be cowed down, not to fear when you're in a combat situation? What part of it comes from their culture and not from the training is what I want to ask you. Like I said, so you can shoot them. You can not shoot them. What I'm trying to say is you can train them how to shoot a gun. You can train them how to wield their knives. But what is it, the cultural aspect that cannot be trained in academies, because of which you cannot train soldiers from any other region like the way you can train Gorkhas?
Yes, it is. It is very culturally. If you go back early 1800s, 1700s, there was a lot of Gorkha wars happening, like anywhere in the world. I mean, world is full of wars and battles across the history. There's never been a peaceful day.
Yeah.
Right. So, but Indians got exposed to the Gorkha culture when Britishers came. It's not that we didn't know them, but their fearsome and legendary fighting capabilities actually were more or less recorded history-wise. Before that, you don't fight too much when Britishers entered, right? And they tried to, explain it in a way that these guys are tough guys because, let's say, on a physical attribute, they live in mountains, a lot of walking around, that. These guys are tough guys. Secondly, the kukri that they wield is actually considered as a weapon of God, right? The moment you hold a kukri, it is, someday try that, right? just I'll gift you a kukri. Try and hold it. It's not like a sword. It's not like a knife. It's not like a pistol. It is something else. The base of the kukri, there's a small cut, which actually, resembles hoof of a cow.
Okay.
So you are a cow protector. Gorkha, Nepal is the only pure Hindu state earlier. The Hindu Rashtra
Kingdom,
which
yeah.
we talk about, they were there. So they take their duties very seriously. They take religion very seriously. They have always been, very aggressive when it comes to following their principles. And that's a cultural thing. You can't really, how a culture evolves is a very anthropological study. So can't really, I'm not that an expert. But this is culturally, they are guys very strong on their principles. They party very hard, right? If they fight very hard. They just are passionate people that way.
Right. I'd love to have a kukri, but I don't know if I would be, if I'm able enough to wield one because,
No, just don't wave it around in traffic.
Yes.
So, lest you get very viral.
Yeah, but I've read this myth. I don't know if it's a myth or not, but there's a saying apparently in the language. I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe you can confirm it. That apparently once a kukri is unsheathed, it has to taste blood before it's sheathed again.
No, it's an urban legend.
Urban legend. Okay, so then internet made it up.
Yeah. It's nothing. We have to take out kukri so many times in the day. You have to chop. So over a while, when you are in field, you get to you adapt to kukri. You are using it to cut a little knife. You are using it to. You have to open a box. You'll use that. You have to practice. You have to mend something. You use it as a. It becomes your part of you.
It's like a Swiss Army knife, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
So if you start drawing blood,
every time you take it out,
you won't survive too long.
Right. One last point on this particular aspect, the fearsome nature of Gorkhas, because I want our listeners and viewers to have an actual picture of it and not just this abstract talk that we're sort of having about कि culture से आता है, ऐसा होता है, वैसा होता है. Because you've been there, done that, you've been with them. Can you tell us that one incident, of fighting alongside Gorkhas that for you would be the best example of what we've discussed right now, of their fearsome nature, of their fighting abilities, of their ability to follow tactics, something from your time in the Indian Army serving along with them, that would be the perfect illustration for what we just discussed.
Yeah. So when we were in Kupwara, right, I told you unit performed very well. Not initially. We had quite a long dry spell. That's the word, right? So, and we had a very good commanding officer. He was my first commanding officer. I still have a lot of respect for him. Taught us so many things. And he was the one who forced everyone follow the basics and we'll do great. And he was proven right, actually. So we had a JCO, Junior Commissioned Officer Gorkha, and somehow he was sent on an operation. He came back empty-handed once, twice, something. And the CO was quite critical of that. He said, what kind of guy you are? You didn't do that. You should be more. That guy went and did not come back for 28, 30 days.
Wow.
Till the time he had actually killed 3.
Wow.
So that's the thing. That's the difference it makes. Nobody else would do that.
Yes.
And mind you, there was no officer with him. He took the patrol himself and he was there for 2-3 weeks. And then it became his habit. He was like that, bounty hunter of jungle. And we all really learned a lot from that JCO, and he was quite a celebrated guy in the unit because he was very fit, tactically very smart, obviously CO's favorite then, right? So, but that's the kind of thing. People do take their commitment seriously. People don't take, things like lying down that you can comment on my capability. People will do something.
Yeah.
And but one thing I have to say, you also need leaders and officers like that to bring best out in them. It is often perceived that, and it's a common thing that people think that Fauji's abuse a lot when they talk or something. That does not happen in Gorkha Regiment.
Yes, I've heard this.
We cannot do that, right? In my years of service, I've rarely heard somebody abuse anybody. We speak very, the respect for a soldier and soldiers to the officer is a two-way street. It's reciprocative. It's in a manner transactional also, and it's earned by both parties. But you don't abuse in Gorkha. We are league apart that way. So hence, if you try to be something else that the regiment does not allow or expect, you will somehow see that not working out very well for the company or the officer or something like that. So you need good leaders and good officers like my seniors who trained me also, Everybody fantastic, and they taught me, this is how you talk, this is how you behave. Do not behave like a hooligan. This is, I mean, you have not become king of the world. You have become officer. It means you have a lot of responsibilities now. So it brings the best of both.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think Abhishek said something similar to me in season 1 of In Our Defense when we were discussing Gorkhas in one of the episodes. I think we'll have a link to the episode in the show notes. Is that the Gorkhas are, for somebody who can fight so well, they are very sensitive. What you said right now, he had told the same thing that, in Gorkha regiment, officers never abuse. And the story told me right now, I think also is a bit of that. It's not as much as, ki daat pad gayi mujhe. It's more of ki, because what that padi, he must have felt so bad that ab to yaar,
My pride is hurt.
my pride is hurt, so I have to prove him, yeah, right.
But the bad part of that is that our commanding officer thought this is the formula to. So he said everybody will go out for 14 days. So we had a lot of tough time that day.
Yeah, but I think that's also something that kind of comes out in your book now that you say it, because actually I did not think of it when I read it, but now that you say it, it was in my subconscious, and now I can see it, that the book, the conversations between even the officers of the book is very soft in that way, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it kind of comes from your experience.
Yes.
Now that you say it, because there is no abusing in the book, there is no machoism, there is no strong words, and it's almost unlike an army officer actually. The two officers around whom the plot is weaved.
People are joking around each other. They're pulling each other, like giving each other funny name. But that's the limit.
That's the limit, exactly. And so it's quite timid, I would say, in a way, if compared to what people assume what happens in the army. Right. Major, we'll talk a bit more about the Gorkhas, especially with the kind of recruitment freeze that's happened. But after a quick break.
Is it going to be one last time? We walked out of the Chennai airport with that T-shirt with Morse code, one last time.
What did it say? Did it say one last time question mark or one last time full stop?
One last time full stop from whatever decoding we did.
Even the management says that, no, if he is going to say, he'll say. Even they don't know what next to expect from Dhoni. He could tomorrow all of a sudden say, yeah, this is my last season, okay, bye.
Without Dhoni's face, can you market an IPL season?
Of course.
We just had this whole discussion about how IPL is done great.
CSK might die, which a lot of teams would entertain as well.
Next year IPL slashes the impact player rule, Dhoni's out.
Hello and welcome back. I'm with Major Manik Jolly, and we've been talking about the fearsome Gorkhas based on... He served in the Gorkha Regiment, and his recent book is based on around two officers and their experiences while being in a Gorkha Regiment unit. Major, I wanted to talk a bit about rivalries in the army, because जितना मैंने podcast किया ना, और जितना मैंने पढ़ा है, I know regiments के बीच में बहुत rivalries होती है, right? The Gorkha regiment is very unique in the sense that the Gorkha is actually regiments in the army. So I know you have the Bihar regiment, you have the Jat regiment, you have the Bengal regiment, and then they have battalions. You will have multiple units of those regiments. But with Gorkhas, I've noticed you have the 1, 3, 4, 5, which I think is a frontier force, 8, 9, 11, and sorry, not 6. 6 was given to the British.
Yeah.
So you have 7 different regiments. So it's not this one mammoth group, ki sab ek family ka part hai. These are 7 different regiments. So what must the rivalry be like within these regiments, considering you kind of are from the same culture, but even then you're separate regiments?
Yeah, so regiments have their character, like my unit is called Dasturi Paltan. It was raised in 1857. Right? It was called that time Prince of Wales' own Gorkha Rifles.
Okay.
Very old, So why it's called Dasturi is it's called that if there is a law that has come in existence, and Gorkhas, are very strict on laws. The lace has to be tied like this, and the epaulette has to be we follow Dastur to the T. Like we do not even try to think that I can have extra button here or open this or fold this sleeve. We are very Dasturi that way. Over the time, because all these... Britishers were hiring Gorkhas across the plain, right? You have Gorkhas living in India, Uttarakhand, then you have some in Sikkim, Northeast, Nepal. Even in there are different castes and traits. So when the recruitment happened, they realized that the mixing is not a great idea. So like 4GR would hire a lot of recruitment from a certain part of Nepal and some from India.
Right.
But that is mostly the Uttarakhand part. Certain regiments are hiring only from a certain part. So the thing is, it's even though we think of Gorkhas as one unit, right? Think of it as an entire country. Like we have different.
Yes, yes,
They have the same thing. Hence the different regiment. But because they all are Gorkhas, so the numbers were given. And like you have, 8 Jat or 17 Madras but it became, because it was 4th Gorkha Rifle, the first
Right.
unit became 1st Battalion of the 4th Gorkha Rifle. So I remember when I was commissioned, I told my friend civilian that I was coming to 1/4 GR. You have to explain that. He said, quarter kyun hai? I said, Baki kahan gaye? Right. So it's complicated sometimes. Yeah.
Right. Major, as we end this episode, to talk about the Agniveer scheme, not the scheme actually. I think that's a separate topic altogether, a deep dive, and it's a mix of everything, politics, etc., etc. But itna to it's very clear it was brought in with this very, I would say, an ideal objective of reducing the pension budget of the government of India, which is humongous, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers with me right now, but if you were to see the budget document, every year your eyes would pop out to see the kind of money that the government of India has to. And it of course should, but it was just a policy decision to reduce that. Anyway, like I'm saying, I don't want to get into the politics and the rationale and the controversy behind it. But what's happened because of this is that Nepal has stopped sending its Gorkhas to the Indian Army because for Nepal and its citizens, serving in the Indian Army was a lifelong sure guarantee of financial backing, financial support. Sorry, if I'll correct myself. With the Agniveer scheme, what Nepal fears, I think justifiably so, is that once these soldiers, 75% of them who return, who will not be inducted into the Indian Army forever, then who supports them? What do they do? Who ensures the financial stability for them? Stuff like that. Last I checked, I think discussions are still ongoing between the two countries about how to resolve this impasse. And there was also reports that China is sort of taking this, looking to take advantage of the situation by sort of coming into the picture and saying, hey, come with us, we'll give you what India used to give you. So two tangents over here, Major. One, the real practical aspect of what happens, or is it big of a loss it is for the Indian Army with Nepal's Gorkhas not coming into the army for the last couple of years. Second, what we said at the beginning of this episode, we will not go into the policy and stuff like that. But I want to go into the policy and the larger strategic impact and the worry of China actually sort of taking advantage of this.
Yeah. So, firstly, to be very honest, it will be a loss. We get phenomenal soldiers from there. And if we stop that recruitment, yes, over the time, you fill the gap with whatever best resources you have. We have Indian Gorkhas also. It's not like they are any less, right? But if you have, why break something which is working all right, that kind of thing. And this pension liability, which you spoke about for the treasury, for the government of India, we send thousands of crores to Nepal also every year. Because there are hundreds and thousands of soldiers who are who are drawing pensions there, right? So, again, not to get into politics, not to get into finance, all that thing, I personally felt that the real impact of any scheme is visible. Let it run one course.
True.
Right? Let's actually see how this works. You even if you buy a equipment, right, you actually see how it works for some time and then you pass on a judgment. So again, I'm neither an expert or part of manpower in the army headquarters, nor politician, but I would say that maybe government in its wisdom did something. The Nepalese took their decision, but very recently the conversation is have gone in a very positive direction, and there is some midway being discussed upon, and the recruitment should start again. And till that time, we are taking Gorkhas, Indian Gorkhas, and that's actually filling the number quite all right. And as far as China is concerned, it is a very real and persistent threat. But as much as I know, even Nepalese Gorkhas are not too keen joining their army. Chinese have a different culture altogether. Right? They align mentally, they align, socially very well with Indians. And that's how we have such great bonding. right? Chinese cannot do that.
Yep.
So while for career and money some might join, but fine, you can't stop that.
Yeah.
But overall, you and I, when we join our jobs, right, there's an element of this is what I want to do, right? If I have two choices, it's the same thing. Once the recruitment happens, that threat is kind of, I wouldn't say totally mitigated, but can be put it in place for some while. So that China thing is real. I know, we all know that. But I think a good political dialogue should resolve the recruitment process.
Yeah, I quite like the point you made about the cultural differences, because I think this is something that I discussed previously with somebody as well, that it's not as simple as China just opening the floodgates, saying putting out an application, log chale jayenge, because like you said, it's just culturally very, very different. Also because Gorkha also they're also very, very loyal, and they've had decades of an association with India, so it's just like at the drop of a hat they'll just sort of just align themselves with China. Right, Major, I think, we'll end it there. At this episode, at least, had a fantastic time talking to you. Loved your insights, loved your experiences, the stories that you gave. And this, I think, I haven't met many retired officers. And this is actually my first time talking at such a length with a retired officer. And I think the saying that, army men have the best, women nowadays as well, have the best stories to tell, and they're the best storytellers. I think that was quite proven true, and I hope our listeners viewers also agree with that. Thank you, Major, and I hope you had a great time as well on this podcast. Were you nervous at the beginning, or do you find it fine?
No, it's perfectly good. Actually, it is my first experience like that. But I mean, kudos to you and your team. You make everybody feel so comfortable that you can talk comfortably and talk from your heart. And obviously, I'm here because I wrote the book. So I would say that if you read it, you'll find that the elements of what I spoke about Gorkha Regiment, you'll find in this book.
I guess while you were talking, I could just recall chapters from your book, whereas he wrote about this, he wrote about that.
The way operations happen, the way officers behave themselves, the way they bond together, the way they talk to each other, it will have element of, and hence it is not just any military fiction, it's a Gorkha military fiction. Yes. Right? So that makes the difference.
So what's book 2 gonna be like, and when is it gonna come out? Because I noticed at the end of the book you have a sort of a glimpse of what may be coming up. So
this is Kupwara Codes. The book 2 is Jammu Juggernauts. The book 1 is very action oriented, combat. It has 3 major encounters.
Right.
And I've tried to portray encounters as they happen. Not like what they show in movies or OTTs.
Oh, yes.
Right? This is very how it happens kind of a thing. Secondly, the second book will be very, spies and counterintelligence focused.
Right.
When it will move to more OGW, sleeper cells in Jammu and around, how ISI is managing all that. And third book will culminate in Kathmandu, where is the ISI hub.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So
the den of spies. Is what it's
we
called.
will manage them there. Then, right.
Right. Great. Thanks, Major. Thanks for coming in. And I hope you'll be back with us on future episodes as well. And we'll have more stories to discuss with you and more tales from your experiences for our listeners and viewers to enjoy. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And Jai Hind, everyone.
Jai Hind.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's Defense Dose. For more, tune in next week. Till then, stay safe and do not cross any boundaries with your passport. Bye-bye.